series, so welcome back to my channel. So today I'm really excited to be adding my own fall recommendations to the mix of fall recommendation reads that is already out there. I love watching these types of videos because I'm always in the hunt for another like spooky, eerie, dark story, and I also love sharing my own recommendations, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. I will split this video up in two parts, so the first part will be YA and the second part will be adult books, but I feel like anybody could read all of these. Maybe not, like kids shouldn't read the adult ones, but the other around works for the most part, so let's just get into it. The first book is one I've actually already seen recommended in a bunch of videos because it really works for this time of the year, and that is Gretel and the Dark by Eliza Granville. So the book is set both in 1899 in Vienna and in the 1940s in Germany, and it's kind of split up in those two timelines. In 1899 we follow this girl that kind of just shows up out of nowhere, and she has no memories, she doesn't know who she is or what she's doing there, and her head is shaved and she has like really looks worn out and stuff like that, and a psychologist takes her on and tries to figure out what's going on with her. And then in the 1940s in Germany we follow this little girl called Christa, whose dad is a Nazi soldier slash commander, I think, actually. I think he's pretty high ranking, and he works in the infirmary with animal people, and then slowly she discovers kind of what's actually going on there, and it kind of has a lot of historical fiction elements to it, so like actual stuff that happened is incorporated in the story, and it makes it really interesting at the same time being really a dark story. And these two timelines then intersect at some point, and we kind of realize the connection between the two and everything that's going on, and it's really not the type of like jump scary book or even like a horror book. It's really just like you're filled with dread, and everything is very dark and dusky and like really well written. I really enjoyed this at the time of reading it, and I think that this, for example, is definitely a book that can be enjoyed by adults as well, just because it's so well done. The next book I would like to recommend is, I think, actually really severely underrated, and that is Mad Apple by Christina Meldrum. I've honestly not heard many people talk about this at all, and I think it is one of the best dark YA books out there. It follows this girl called Aslog, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, and she grows up kind of in isolation with her mother, and her mother teaches her all about like plants and nature and like how to use plants for certain things. And then something happens and her mother dies, and this girl is then suspected of killing her, and things unravel from there. They take a really dark turn. Everything goes completely crazy. You don't know what to believe, what's going on. It is really so dark and haunting, and I could not put this book down when I was reading it. It's been years since then, and still I remember exactly how I felt when reading this book, because it is so engrossing and it's so dark, and it leaves you like with all these like eerie thoughts like, holy shit, if you have not read Mad Apple, you absolutely have to. I think it is fantastic and it deserves more recognition for sure. Then we have another book that I'm not actually sure if it is YA, but I think it is, and that is Deathless by Catherine M. Valenti. This is a fairy tale retelling actually of Russian folklore, and when I read it several years ago there was a huge hype around it, but it has died down by now. It basically follows this girl called Maria, who is at the beginning of the book a little girl and then grows up to be the bride of Koschei, and Koschei is basically the Russian devil kind of thing. I can't actually explain this book very well because it has so many magical elements to it, and it's very fairy tale-esque, so it really reads like a fairy tale. It's so well written though, and it's so engrossing, and so I think it's just best to just like pick this up and read it and not know too much about it going into it. But I definitely think that because of all the dark elements that it has, it would be a really great read for the fall. And the final book is distinctly more YA than the three that I already talked about that are already in the YA category, but this is like super YA, I think. And that is Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendari Blake. This is part of a duology. The second book is called Girl of Nightmares, and he follows this boy called Kaz, who is a ghost hunter, and once he comes across the ghost of Anna and he kind of falls in love with her. So it's like a forbidden love story between a boy and a ghost, but it's also spooky and it's also eerie and creepy, and when I read it I was quite a bit younger than I am now, so I'm not sure how I would feel about it now, but I remember reading this book and being quite like feeling quite involved in it to the point of actually being a little bit scared at times, and I really enjoyed it. I think if you are of the age that like YA books are typically appealing to you, then I definitely think that this would be something for you. It is kind of written in a bit more of a simplistic way, I would say, as you would expect of most YA books, but I still think the story is well done, and at the time of reading it, I certainly really enjoyed it, and I think it would make a good spooky Halloween read. As for the adult books, the first book I would like to talk about is Horns by Joe Hill, who is, I think, the son or grandson or nephew of Stephen King. I actually don't know, but he's somehow related to Stephen King, and so this book had to make it on this list, of course. They actually made a movie out of this with Daniel Radcliffe, which I haven't seen yet, so I don't know how that one is, but I really enjoyed this book at the time of reading it. It follows this guy called Ig, who is accused of having murdered his girlfriend? Wife? I actually don't know. But basically his entire community, even though he was acquitted of the murder, his entire community believes that he is guilty, and they kind of shun him for it. And one day he wakes up with horns on his head and the magical power of getting to hear other people's deepest, darkest secrets. And as he kind of progresses through the storyline, he starts to realize what actually happened to his girlfriend, and other things start to go down, and it's really good. I actually really loved this book at the time of reading it. I think I should reread it because I've forgotten so many of the details, and I actually don't remember how it ends, which is bad. But I love this book. It's really well written, it's really scary and eerie, and you're just like constantly thinking like, what is the truth, what's happening, what's going on, like why does he have horns, what's happening to him? Like, it's super good, and because of this topic it deals with, it's definitely something you should be reading this fall. Since we talked about Stephen King's somewhat relative, I don't know, we're also gonna have to talk about Stephen King. And I read it this month, and I think that it should make it on this list because it is definitely one hell of an eerie book. It's one hell of a book, period. But like, eerie is definitely a word I would use to describe it. I did have my issues with this, and I think I'll do a proper It review video talking about them in detail, but I still think that if you are willing to read 1,300 pages and maybe don't, care if you're a little bit disappointed by the ending, I think you should still read it. It's not a scary book, I don't think. It's not a book that like I lie awake at night and think about. It's not a book that is like psychological horror in any way, which is typically what I enjoy, but it fills with so much dread when you read it. You're just like so drawn into the story because you get so much backstory in all of the characters, so you're really involved, and so in a way it is scary to you because you feel like you're experiencing it, but it doesn't like follow you outside of your reading time of this. And I think that it's definitely kind of dreadful, and not dreadful, that's a negative word. It definitely has a lot of strong points to it, and you're constantly like thinking like, what's going on with this clown, what's happening, oh, if you don't know, basically. I'm not sure why you wouldn't. This book is set in a town of Derry, Maine, and there are a lot of disappearances, specifically of children that are killed, and it kind of, 7 kids kind of figure out that it's happened. A clown is like killing people, and they're trying to find out why. And then it also jumps back kind of almost 30 years in the future when they're adults and they have to come back to fight it again, basically. Next I have something different, which is a graphic novel, but it's a graphic novel that I think works really well in the fall because of the eerie factor, and that is Nailbiter by Williamson, Henderson, Gzowski, and Hill. This is a graphic novel series set in a town of Buckaroo that has an unusual large amount of serial killers coming from that town, and we follow like kind of a police woman, sheriff type person, and we also follow Nailbiter, who's one of those serial killers. He was convicted and now he's released, and like I feel like, no, I think he was acquitted as well, but people like know that it's him, and he kind of chews people's nails before he kills them, or like he bites their fingers. Like, it's super creepy stuff. This is certainly, like, because you get all the artwork as well. Let me show you. I'm trying to look for like a non-spoilery page that also comes with like creepy images. Like, look at that. There's a lot of gore, but not in a gratuitous way, I would say. It's just really well done, and it's very scary. The series is completed, by the way, and I think there are 6 or 7 volumes. I can't remember right now, but I read all of them. I think 6. And the ending is a bit disappointing, but I still think it's worth reading all of them because they're so good, and you're so like on the edge of your seat all the time, and they're so suspenseful. yay, you should definitely read this one. And finally, I want to talk about a different sort of horror that's not actually horror, but it's kind of suspense, a lot of suspense, and that is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I haven't read the sequels yet, but this is the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy. It follows 4 women scientists, and they're sent into the Area X, where a lot of expeditions have already gone, but weird stuff has happened to them. Either they haven't returned, or they have returned in like a weird state, and then like they've killed themselves, or like really weird shit has gone down. And basically they're just like, one is a anthropologist, there's a surveyor, a psychologist, and then the biologist who is the narrator, and she kind of just like details what's happening there. And oh my god, this book is so short, but from literally the first page you're so engrossed and you're so terrified. Really, it's like this sort of subtle terror that like lurks inside you. It's just like constantly there, and you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen. So because of that, it's such a page turner and it's such a quick read, but I think the length is perfect for it, because you're constantly like waiting for something to happen, and then maybe it does, and maybe it doesn't, maybe just the eeriness just continues, and even that is good. So I absolutely love this book. I give it all of the stars, and I think everybody should read this because it's so good. I have heard kind of bad things about the sequels, so that makes me a little nervous about them, but this book is super amazing. And that is it for my fall recommendations video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found some new books to pick up this fall for the eerie, dark, rainy season. We're just gonna cuddle up with a book and a cup of tea or coffee and a blanket. Like, that's all I want. If my life could be fall, I would choose that. Also because I would have my birthday like constantly. 3 more weeks, guys, and I'm 24. I'm not sure why I'm so happy about that. I don't really want to be that old. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any of your fall recommendations in the comments down below. Add them to the list. I'm always looking for more stuff to pick up that's kind of spooky, eerie, that sort of thing. Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're new here and like this video. Come back very soon for another one. Have a lovely week. Bye!